How to be organized. This is a question that I have really tried to find the answer to, organize the different areas of life. And I'm not a pro, but I have found a couple of things that have really helped me, and I'd love to be able to share those. So hopefully you can apply some of these tips as well. When we talk about organization, the first thing that you need to remember is this is a means to an end. You try to become organized, not so that everybody thinks that you're organized, but so that you can spend your time doing the things that you want to do rather than the things that you have to do because you were disorganized. Because when you're not organized, you create more work for yourself. And whenever you don't clean your room and then you have to look for your SD card to shoot the video, that's because you weren't organized in the first place. So if you are more organized, you don't spend as much time looking for things, and you also tend to be more efficient in any project that you do. And at the end of the day, you're able to spend more leisure time and you're going to be more relaxed because you're organized. So hopefully this pitch has sold you on why you should be organized, and we'll look at a few other things that you should know. One thing that you'll have to get out of your head if you're going to be organized is the phrase, "I don't have time." Now, this phrase is used innocently. In my experience, I don't really know anyone who says that on purpose, but what you're telling yourself is, I don't have a choice in what I choose to do. And that's not really true. You do have a choice, and you might not like the consequences of that choice, but the reality is you do have a choice in what you do. So remember that. Don't say, "I don't have time." Say instead, I'm not choosing to put my time towards whatever the thing is. Your time is important because it's the most valuable resource you have. You might say, "Oh, well, money is the most valuable resource." Well, that's not really true. You can't get your time back, but you can get your money back. And the way that you get money is by trading your time. And so whenever you are looking at being organized, you want to do that so that you can use that time, which is the most valuable resource, the way you want in the future. Being organized goes into a lot of different areas. I broke it down into three: personal, work, and school. So in the personal areas, one thing is finances, and I use a Google Sheet, and I just take my credit cards that I use credit cards so I can get the bonuses, and I just enter in all my transactions every month. Now, that might sound like a lot more work than is necessary. You might have an app that does work a little better, but what's helpful for me in the Google Sheet is I can share that with my wife, and she has access to the Google Sheet to see where our money's going. And I used to use a formula and build it all myself and put all these different transactions in the different categories manually. But then I went on YouTube and I just used a basic finance template on Google Sheets, and I just watched like a 5-minute video on how to stack everything so that I can understand it, so I don't have to go back and add up, okay, those were my transportation expenses, okay, those were my that was my income, and this is what rent was. I just put that in one sheet and it adds it up for me. When it comes to finances, the biggest thing is knowing where your money's going, because you're going to have things that come up. You're going to have to fix the car. You're going to have to pay for the hose that broke on outside so you can water your plants, okay? You're going to have some of these expenses that are going to come up, but if you just know where your money's going, that's the goal. And as you track it, I noticed the first couple months that I tracked my finances, it was kind of shaky. But then once I got a system, I knew what to expect. And then what was cool this year, being married, obviously my finances completely changed, but we're coming up on being married for 2 years. I'm able to compare this month, this year with this month last year, and just kind of compare and contrast. And obviously inflation is a factor, but I'm able to see, and Stephanie's able to ask questions. Okay, should we have spent money here? What about this decision? And being able to just look at our finances is super helpful. Also helps at the end of the year when you do taxes. You can be like, yeah, I anticipated making this, and oh, I was a little off. Why was I off? And so being aware is a big deal. Then you can see, oh, I spend this much money on eating out. Probably should not do that, because if you don't have a number, it's hard to decide how bad a problem actually is. So, but then when you see, oh, I spent $300 on eating out this month, there's much more incentive there to make a better decision in that area of your finances. So guys, just make sure you track it. Have something that you can save your financial tracking on. Maybe you find a better app. I know a lot of people like Dave Ramsey's stuff. Whatever you use, just make sure you're aware. And just knowing what you're spending will help you in the future make better decisions. One other thing on finances, make sure that you're investing. You should be putting 10% away of what you make. And if you aren't now, have a plan for the future, because a lot of people in the past have not set aside any money. So make sure you're investing. Make sure, if you're a person of faith, make sure you're giving to your local church. I mean, I work at a church. I love being able to serve God, but I wouldn't be able to do that if Christians weren't faithful. So when it comes to your money, make sure that you're giving, make sure that you're investing some, and track it so you'll be able to improve and put your money towards what really matters. The next area of organizing your personal life is your car. Now, I did my bachelor's degree at Pensacola Christian College, and when we were in our Thursday pastoral lecture, we'd always have a speaker come in, or like one of the faculty come. One of the guys always talked about having an organized car, and I really tried to do my best ever since he said that, because he was like, guys, how are you supposed to manage a church if you can't organize your own car, your own personal life? So that's kind of not really you have to do this because it's a total life changer, but more like it's good to do this to prove this to yourself that you can be organized. Because if you're organized in your personal life, you tend to be organized in your work life, and vice versa. If you tend to not be organized in your work life, you tend to not be organized personally. So keep your car clean. You don't have to have a car wash membership, but you can at least make sure that you pick up the things on the ground, and when people go to your car, like, it's not dirty all the time. So again, that's not like something that is do or die when it comes to being organized, but it's helpful because you don't lose as many things and you're able to be more efficient throughout the week. Next is your house or your apartment. Same with the car. Have some kind of a system if you can. You don't necessarily have to have a system, but try to keep a clean house, because again, you won't be looking for things, you won't lose things, and your tasks won't be as inefficient because you're able to do them faster because things are clean. Cooking is going to take less time because you clean the dishes when you're finished, whatever it is. Obviously, there might be certain times where you're super busy and you're just not able to get to laundry. That's okay, but just in general, try to have a clean house, clean car. Know where your finances are going. Also, when it comes to your office space, wherever you work, keep that organized, keep that inviting, so that whenever it's time to do work, you don't have to spend your first 10 minutes putting things away. You can just jump right into it. And also, fitness is a really helpful thing to have organized. For me, all that means is I pay somebody. It's like $10 a month. His name's Julian Smith. He is not sponsoring this video, but he's put out bodybuilding videos for a long time, and my brother told me about him, so I subscribed to his workouts, and so I don't have to plan my workouts, and that makes a huge difference, because he is putting the thought into mixing up the routine so you don't do the same thing over and over again. And then I don't have to think, oh man, what am I going to do for legs today? I can just know, okay, I want to do a push day, a pull day, a leg day, and 2 cardio days throughout the week, and the workouts are already there for me. So that's the way that gets organized. Sometimes I don't follow it. I mean, it's not a perfect system, but I don't have to spend as much time planning the workouts. I just spend a little bit of money, trade my money for my time, and somebody else does it for me. So again, you might not do that. You might not find that super helpful, but organize those different areas of your personal life. The second area to be organized is your work. Now, I'm going to propose a system that the way you organize your work is 3 ways: by the year, by the week, and by the day. Because if you can set the year, and obviously you can expand it further out, you can do trimesters, or you can do quarters of the year where you do 3 months and there's 4 of those quarters, which equals 12. Whatever you do, just make sure that your long-term goals, you shrink them down into a weekly system you can do every week that is going to move you towards what you want to get done over the long term. And then you have to break that down into the day, because a lot of people have the same goals, and they're big goals, and it's great to have great goals, but it doesn't matter how good your goals are if you don't do something consistently throughout the week, or do something every single day that moves the needle towards that goal that you have. So break that year down into the week and into the day so that you can do the tasks that'll get you towards that long-term goal. Like I said earlier, being organized personally bleeds over into your work, so make sure you're organized personally. Also, a calendar is key. I've been really trying to work on my calendar, and having that system that I execute every single week, moving me towards the long term over the last year. So I've been working on that a lot. I've always used a paper calendar, but now I've been using digital, tracking my time, and it helps a lot. Make sure that you are sharpening the saw. This is the 7th habit in the book that Stephen Covey wrote on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But he says that a lot of people, they stop sharpening the saw, they stop improving their skill in a certain area, and it kind of leaves them stagnant in their work. So whatever you do, make sure that you continue to learn and you continue to improve your skills so that you can help other people more, that you can become more valuable in the workplace. And that is one of the things that you need to do to be more organized in work. Make sure you continue to learn. Accountability is also very helpful in work. If you know you're going to be asked about a certain thing, you can leverage that so that you say, you know what, I want to work on my organization in my sermon prep. So I'm going to tell my boss, I want to work on this. Can you ask me about it? Now you're adding pressure to yourself to be able to perform whatever that you want to perform to get more organized with whatever area that is. Also, it's helpful to know what your year looks like. So I said break that year down into smaller sections, but also if you can look at the 12 months, you know, I'm more busy in this season, less busy in this season. So in these couple months in the summer, I'm going to get after it on this project because I don't really have that time the rest of the year. So know what your year looks like. That's going to make a huge difference. And then also throughout your work day, try to not switch tasks as much as possible, meaning this. Most people in the workplace, I wrote this stat down, the average worker loses 22 to 28% of their day switching tasks. So, and I also wrote down, I'm working on this right now because I definitely don't have this figured out. But if you can say, I'm going to work on this task and block off more time throughout the day to do that one task. And then if you have a bunch of little things that you have to do, bunch those all together so that you're not switching all the time. Because if you had to prepare a sermon, for example, you could do an hour of sermon prep and then 15 minutes of admin work and then hour of sermon prep, 15 minutes of admin work again. Instead of doing that, just block off, okay, I'm gonna do my sermon prep for this time right here. And then later on, I'm gonna block off going to Walmart to get the stuff for the game and then doing these other admin tasks. So I've really been trying to work on that in my own personal life. So make sure that you can block off some time to be working and switch tasks as little as you have to throughout the day. That's how you be organized in your personal life and in your work life. And then I'm working on a master's degree right now. And so working on being organized in my school has been very instrumental in me being able to just do my best in the different areas. So I broke this down as far as being in school to the process, prioritize, and execute. And as far as the process goes, I write out all my projects on a paper planner so that it's not going to get lost on a cloud. At any point, I can look and see what am I doing in April on the 16th, and I can see for school if I have something to do that day or not. That helps. And most students, they tend to wait until something is right before it's due and start working on it then. Don't do that. You won't last very long in college doing that. Also, have a week schedule that you can follow the entire year. I thought that I was the first, well, I didn't think I was the first person, but I hadn't heard anyone say this before. But then I've been on a Cal Newport kick recently, and he said something about this. You want to say, this week, here's how I'm gonna operate my week so that if I did this all 16 weeks of the semester, all my projects would be complete. That means blocking off time for homework. That means blocking off time for big projects. And that way you can just have your system, do your week consistently like that, and you won't have to be stressing at the end of the semester, oh, am I gonna get this big project done? Because you had time set aside that you worked on it the entire semester. And honestly, I feel like people don't really do this until later on because it takes a lot of work at first. It's easy over the long haul, but like if you're only in school for 4 years and you got stressed really bad 1 or 2 of the years, you're like, okay, but then you're done. So it's kind of like I notice more of the med school guys or the people that do school for a really long time that get into these kinds of systems. But just make sure that you have a weekly schedule that can work the whole semester. You'll be way less stressed. And if you haven't started college yet, if you do this, you're going to feel lazy in college because you're going to get so much done so efficiently and your classmates probably won't. So have that system, work it every week. When it comes to school, it's very helpful to have a process. So I wrote down, get all the projects you can done the week before. And then I wrote down the system that's kind of just evolved for me. First, I do the lectures. So if I have online class, if I'm in person, I can't do a lecture ahead of time. But if I'm online, I'll do the lectures first, and then I'll do the weekly homework. And then I try to spend most of my week doing studying and reading. That way, I can just do that every single week, like I said, and at the end of the semester, the big projects are completed. But I noticed that, like, if I just do the daily homework throughout the week, that takes up the whole week. And then there's only the weekend left. So I've really tried to work on staying ahead on the little assignments that are going to be due that week. That way I could spend Monday through Friday doing some of the bigger projects and some of the things that are going to take like many more hours than just that one little homework assignment. So have a process, make sure you prioritize, and then execute. When it comes to school, make sure you're doing active recall. Active recall is the concept where you, instead of just passively reading your assignments, you write questions over your homework, for example, or questions over your notes. And then when you study, you don't start with the definition, you start with the question. This is why flashcards are very helpful, because you start without seeing the answer and you have to try to remember that answer. Well, your brain learns in that zone where you're just spending a little effort trying to remember whatever that term was. So whenever you're studying, make sure you use active recall. Don't just passively read your notes. Make sure that you try to, like for me, I'll just put a topic down and say, tell me what I need to know about that topic. And then I'll just try to kind of go through. And then whenever I realize, okay, I forgot this, then I go back to my notes. And if you've ever taken a test before, or you took a quiz and you're like, man, it's on the tip of my tongue, I just can't remember it. And then you don't forget that term the rest of your life after that test. That's what's going on. Your brain is spending that effort trying to remember, so that when it is given that answer, when you do find that answer, it seals it much more permanently in your brain. So use active recall. Also, there's something called the fluency illusion, which is when you just read your notes, you think you're more ready for the test than you actually are. This is proven. I've done this before. I read the notes and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good. I know what this is talking about, and I actually didn't. So active recall won't let you get into the fluency illusion, because it's really what do you know and what do you don't, because you're not given the answer. And so also work on studying and projects. Like I said, work on those throughout the week. And if you go back and watch the summary I did on the book called Deep Work, this will show you how important it is to block off time that you're able to work on school. So for me, I know the times during the week, it's like, okay, that is set aside for school, that is set aside for work, and this is, leisure time, whatever it is. So if you can do all those things, guys, you have your process, you prioritize what is the most important, then you execute it. That's how you're going to be organized when it comes to school. I hope this video was helpful. We're talking about how to be organized when it comes to school, when it comes to work, and in your personal life. And use some of these tips, and we'll see you in the next one.